You've been hurt. It happens to all of us, and maybe it's been happening more than you'd like to admit. Someone you trusted, someone you gave your heart to, or maybe someone you didn't expect came and they wounded you. They said something, did something, or ignored something that cut you deep. And now you're left in a storm of emotions: frustration, anger, pain. When someone hurts you, the first thing that often happens is you feel the loss of control. You feel vulnerable, exposed, and powerless. In that moment, it's easy to fall into the trap of reacting with emotion, anger, frustration, sadness. But what if you chose a different path? What if instead of reacting the way they expect, you decided to shift the power dynamic entirely? We've all been there. Someone says something hurtful, someone lets you down, and suddenly it feels like everything is out of your hands. You start feeling like your worth is tied to their treatment of you. You feel like their actions define your mood, your confidence, your peace. But that's where the shift begins. The moment you stop allowing others to control your emotional state, you take the power back. When you choose not to react the way someone expects, you're no longer a player in their game. You're no longer following their script. Instead, you start writing your own. You start responding in a way that leaves them uncertain. They expected you to lash out or retreat into silence, but you chose something unexpected: peace, calm, emotional strength. They can't handle that because it's not part of their narrative. This shift isn't about being passive or pretending like nothing hurts you. It's about recognizing that you control your responses, and in doing so, you control the atmosphere. You shift from being a victim of their words and actions to being the author of your own emotional journey. Your peace isn't dependent on them. It's rooted in something deeper, something unshakable. When you stop giving them that power, you take back your own authority. This shift requires emotional intelligence. It requires strength, and it requires a deep sense of self-awareness. It means that when someone throws their negativity your way, you don't let it stick. It doesn't define you. It's just noise, and you choose not to let it disrupt your peace. Instead, you engage in a response that confuses them because you've refused to play into their expectations. What does that look like? It looks like responding with grace instead of anger. It looks like holding on to your dignity even when someone tries to strip it away. It looks like knowing that no one can take away your value unless you allow them to. And the moment you decide you won't allow them to do that is the moment you take the reins back. You're not at their mercy anymore. You're standing firm, walking in your own strength. By refusing to let their hurtful actions dictate your reactions, you rewrite the rules of engagement. You take away the power of their words, their actions, and you show them that your emotional life is yours to manage, not theirs. You're no longer in their hands. You're in your own hands, and no one can take that from you. When someone hurts you, there's often a deep temptation to get back at them. The feeling of wanting to make them feel what you felt, of wanting to see them experience the same pain or discomfort they caused you, can be overwhelming. It's only natural to want justice, to want them to understand the weight of their actions. But here's the thing: seeking revenge might give you momentary satisfaction, but it will never restore your peace or your sense of self-worth. Revenge keeps you tied to the very thing that hurt you. It's a trap that keeps you focused on them, on their wrongdoings, their choices, their actions. When you try to pay them back in some way, whether with words, actions, or silent treatment, you're giving them control over your emotional state. You're letting them dictate your energy and your mindset. You're allowing their mistakes to have even more power over you than they already do. But when you choose self-worth over revenge, you stop letting their actions define you. You stop letting their behavior shape how you feel about yourself. You remember that you are not defined by the way others treat you. Your identity is not built on their judgment or their mistakes. It is rooted in something greater, something far stronger than the temporary satisfaction of revenge. Choosing self-worth over revenge means understanding that your peace is worth more than a moment of petty satisfaction. Revenge might make you feel good in the short term, but it doesn't heal the wound. It doesn't restore what was lost. It doesn't bring back your confidence, your joy, or your sense of dignity. In fact, it often drags you deeper into the cycle of hurt, keeping you focused on the person who wronged you rather than focusing on the path toward your own healing. Self-worth over revenge also means recognizing that you don't have to stoop to someone else's level. It means choosing to rise above the situation, no matter how difficult. It means choosing not to lower your standards or values to meet someone else's actions, but instead deciding to live in alignment with your own truth and integrity. Revenge requires you to act in ways that are beneath you, to sacrifice your dignity in exchange for momentary emotional satisfaction. But when you choose self-worth, you walk with your head held high, knowing that you can't be defined by what others do to you. This is where true strength lies, not in retaliation, but in restraint. Not in hurting back, but in showing that you are better than the situation. Your self-worth is too valuable to trade for temporary satisfaction. It's built on your ability to rise above the circumstances, to keep your heart protected, and to continue moving forward no matter how much someone might try to hold you back. Choosing self-worth over revenge is an act of profound wisdom. It acknowledges that there is a greater reward for holding on to your peace and your sense of self. Your value is not determined by the actions of others, and the way you respond to their hurtful behavior is the clearest reflection of who you are. When you choose to walk away from the desire for revenge, you embrace your true strength, and you allow yourself to heal in a way that no act of revenge could ever achieve. When someone hurts you, the natural instinct is often to react emotionally. Our feelings can rise up quickly: anger, frustration, sadness, and they can overwhelm us in a way that feels uncontrollable. It's like a floodgate opens, and suddenly we're swept away by the rush of emotions. But here's the power of emotional mastery: the ability to choose how we respond, regardless of what we feel in the moment. It's about taking control of our emotions instead of letting them control us. Emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending like nothing bothers you. It doesn't mean denying your anger, pain, or frustration. Instead, it's about recognizing those feelings and then deciding what to do with them. It's about acknowledging your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. You don't have to let every emotion you feel take you on a wild ride. You can be present with your feelings and, at the same time, choose not to let them control your behavior. The person who hurts you may expect you to react impulsively, to lash out, to say things you'll regret. They might even be looking for a reaction to fuel their own agenda. But when you've mastered your emotions, you've already stepped outside of their control. You've stopped being a slave to the impulse to react. Instead, you recognize the power in responding intentionally rather than reacting in a way that leaves you vulnerable and exposed. Emotional mastery means choosing to pause before you respond. It means taking a deep breath and giving yourself a moment to process before you act. It's about stepping back from the situation and saying, how do I want to respond, not how am I forced to respond. It's choosing not to let the hurtful actions of others hijack your emotional state. It's recognizing that you are not a puppet to your emotions, but the one pulling the strings. Mastering your emotions also means understanding that they are valid, but they are not the full truth. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it is the final word on your reality. For instance, just because someone hurt you doesn't mean you have to carry the burden of anger and resentment. It means you can acknowledge the hurt, but choose not to live in it. You don't have to dwell in the anger or frustration. You can recognize those emotions, then let them pass through you without letting them take root in your heart. This doesn't mean you won't feel angry or hurt. It means you don't let those emotions take over your behavior, your peace, or your relationships. Emotional mastery gives you the ability to handle those emotions in a way that doesn't destroy your internal peace or external connections. It's the ability to rise above your feelings and choose the response that aligns with your values, not the temporary urges that are fueled by hurt. When you've mastered your emotions, you also give yourself the freedom to heal. You're not stuck replaying the moment over and over, reliving the hurt every time you feel it. You allow yourself to process the pain, but you don't stay there. You allow your emotions to inform you without letting them control you, and in doing so, you create space for healing and growth. Your emotional state becomes something you can steward with wisdom and grace, not something that dictates your every move. Emotional mastery is a gift you give yourself. It empowers you to stand strong, even in the face of hurt. It strengthens you to respond with clarity and purpose instead of giving into the chaos of uncontrolled emotion. And it shows others that you can be strong, even when the world around you is trying to push you into reactionary behavior. You don't just react, you respond with intention and strength. When someone hurts you, it's easy to fall into the trap of responding with the very thing they've given you, pain. They hurt you, so you want to hurt them back. It's a natural response, one that comes from a place of woundedness, wanting justice, wanting them to feel the weight of what they've done. But there's another way to wield power in this situation, one that seems counterintuitive, but is far more powerful than any act of retaliation. It's the weapon of love. Love, when wielded intentionally, is not a weakness. It's not about being passive or allowing others to walk all over you. It's not about staying silent while someone takes advantage of you. No, love as a weapon is about choosing to respond with compassion and understanding in the face of hostility. It's about rising above the situation and showing the person who hurt you that their actions cannot dictate the way you treat them. You refuse to let their negativity pull you into the cycle of hate and revenge. When you choose love as your response, you're not reacting from a place of emotion or pride. You're responding from a place of strength, grounded in your values, your sense of self, and your understanding of who you are. Love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, but it means responding with dignity and compassion, even when the other person doesn't deserve it. It's about showing them that no matter what they've done, your response is governed by something greater than their action. Your love isn't conditional. It's not a reaction to their behavior. It's a choice. Choosing love as a weapon doesn't mean you ignore your own pain. It doesn't mean pretending the hurt didn't happen or that everything is okay when it's not. It means you've made a conscious decision to not let their wrongs poison your heart. It means you refuse to let their actions shape your behavior in a way that compromises your integrity. Instead, you choose to respond with love. Because love is a force that transcends pain and breaks down walls. It's a weapon that disarms hostility, confusion, and bitterness. Love can also be disorienting to the person who has hurt you. They expect anger, they expect criticism, they expect retaliation. But when you respond with love, you throw them off balance. They don't know what to do with the love they didn't earn, especially when they were hoping for something entirely different. This love isn't about being soft. It's about being so strong in your identity that nothing they do can take away your ability to love. It's about showing them that no matter how much they try to break you, your heart is anchored in something unshakable. But the power of love as a weapon isn't just about the other person. It's about you too. When you choose love, you're also choosing healing. You're not carrying bitterness or anger that weighs you down. You're choosing freedom, and in doing so, you free yourself from the emotional burden of revenge and hatred. Love as a weapon cuts through the darkness of bitterness and brings light into your own life, transforming your heart and your outlook. In a world that often tells us to fight fire with fire, choosing love as a weapon may seem like a radical choice. But the truth is, love has the power to heal, to transform, and to turn the tide in situations where anger and revenge would only perpetuate harm. It is a weapon of strength, not weakness. It is a force that doesn't retaliate, but rises above, refusing to be trapped in the cycle of hurt and destruction. When you choose to love, you choose to take back your power, to rise above the situation, and to show that no matter what others throw at you, love will always be stronger. When someone hurts you, there's often a pressure to move on quickly, to brush it off and act like everything is fine. Society tells you to get over it, to not let it drag you down, to just keep moving forward as if nothing happened. But healing doesn't happen on anyone else's timeline but your own. Healing is personal. It is a process that requires patience, understanding, and grace with yourself. You don't have to fit into someone else's idea of when you should feel better, when you should be over it, or when you should forgive. Healing isn't linear, and it isn't a race. There's no expiration date on when you're supposed to feel okay again. Just because someone expects you to get over it doesn't mean that's what's right for you. Your healing is sacred, and it unfolds in its own time at its own pace. Often we feel this pressure to heal immediately, as if there's something wrong with us if we still feel the pain. The truth is, healing takes time, sometimes more time than we think. When we rush the process, when we suppress our feelings in an attempt to get back to normal quickly, we're only prolonging the healing. Real healing requires space. It's about giving yourself permission to feel hurt without the fear of judgment, to sit with your emotions and understand them instead of pushing them aside. The timeline for healing is yours to set. It's not based on the expectations of others or the urgency to appear okay again. It's about finding the balance between moving forward and honoring where you are emotionally. Healing isn't about pretending it doesn't hurt or acting like you've moved on when you haven't. It's about being honest with yourself, recognizing where you are in the process, and giving yourself the time you need to heal at your own pace. When you allow yourself this grace, you allow your heart the space it needs to repair and renew. Sometimes healing means slowing down and taking care of your emotional and mental health before you can heal from what's been done to you. It means acknowledging the hurt, confronting it, and processing it. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about recognizing it and allowing it to work through you so that it no longer has control over your emotional life. It's an act of self-compassion, giving yourself the room to breathe and recover without the pressure to be anything other than where you are. Moreover, part of healing in your own time means you won't be bound by the expectations of forgiveness that come too soon. Forgiveness isn't something you should rush into just because someone tells you it's the right thing to do. Forgiveness is a journey, and it's one you must take on your own terms. You can choose to forgive when you are ready, when your heart has had enough time to process the hurt, and you're in a place where forgiveness is not forced, but chosen freely. By giving yourself permission to heal in your own time, you release yourself from the chains of comparison. It's easy to look at someone else's healing journey and think, I should be there by now. But your journey is not theirs. The time it takes for one person to heal is not the same as the time it will take for you. Your unique circumstances, the depth of the hurt, your personal healing style, all of that influences the pace of your healing. It is as unique as you are. In your own time, healing means embracing the ebb and flow of emotions. Some days will feel harder than others, and that's okay. It's a part of the process. The days when the hurt feels overwhelming are just as important as the days when it feels lighter. Both are necessary parts of the journey. You may not feel healed at first, and that's okay. What's important is that you are moving forward, even if it's just a little at a time. There is no shame in taking small steps. By choosing to heal in your own time, you honor your own journey. You refuse to rush it or ignore it. You give yourself the space to process your emotions, reflect on your experiences, and slowly rebuild your strength. Your healing is in your hands, and you are the only one who knows when you're ready to move forward, when you're ready to let go of the pain, and when you're ready to rise again. When you're hurt, it often feels like you're alone in the pain. The weight of the wound feels personal, like no one truly understands what you're going through. It can feel isolating, as if you're walking through a dark valley with no one to hold your hand. In these moments, it's easy to believe that your hurt is just a product of human failure, a random accident, or simply the cruelty of others. But from God's perspective, your hurt is not meaningless, is not something he is unaware of or unconcerned about. God sees it, he understands it, and he cares deeply about the pain you're experiencing. When we experience hurt, it's natural to ask, why did this happen? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? But God doesn't look at our pain from the standpoint of punishment or random chaos. He sees it through the lens of redemption, transformation, and divine purpose. God knows that in this fallen world, pain is inevitable. People will hurt us, situations will disappoint us, and sometimes life will feel like it's unraveling at the seams. But the difference is God uses our pain for something greater. He doesn't let it go to waste. He uses it to shape us, refine us, and draw us closer to Him. From God's perspective, your hurt doesn't define you. It's part of the process of becoming who you were always meant to be. He sees the potential for growth within the pain, the strength that will emerge from the trial, and the character that will develop from the difficulty. God never promises us a life free from hurt, but He does promise that He will be with us through it. He promises that He will comfort us in our grief, restore what has been broken, and use every painful experience to mold us into something stronger, purer, and more like Christ. God also sees the deeper story of your hurt, the one that you might not fully understand in the moment. While the immediate pain feels overwhelming, God knows the bigger picture. He sees how this moment of hurt fits into the greater tapestry of your life. What you may see as a setback or a tragedy, He sees as part of a journey that will lead to healing, growth, and eventually victory. It might not make sense right now, and it might never make sense in the way we want it to, but from God's vantage point, He sees the beautiful work He is doing in you, even through the pain. Furthermore, God's perspective on your hurt is filled with compassion. He doesn't look at your suffering with indifference or judgment. He is not distant, nor does He scold you for feeling the pain. He understands every tear you shed, every broken part of your heart, and every doubt you wrestle with. Jesus Himself experienced pain, rejection, and betrayal, and He understands your suffering on a deep, intimate level. He is the God who wept at the death of His friend Lazarus, knowing that He was about to raise him from the dead. He feels your pain with you. God's perspective also reminds us that we are not alone in our hurt. He is with us every step of the way, walking alongside us, even in our darkest moments. When you feel abandoned or forsaken, remember that God is present, offering His peace, His comfort, and His presence in ways that are beyond human understanding. He is not merely a distant observer of your pain. He is intimately involved in your healing process. He will never leave you or forsake you. Hebrews 13:05. You may not always feel it, but He is there, right beside you, offering His strength when you are weak, His hope when you are lost, and His love when you feel unworthy of it. Through God's eyes, your hurt is also an invitation to trust. It's an invitation to surrender the pain, to open up your heart to Him in ways that allow His healing power to touch the deepest parts of your soul. Your hurt is an opportunity to lean into God's grace, to let Him carry what you cannot, and to receive His healing that transcends understanding. While we may not always understand why certain things happen, God invites us to trust in His sovereignty, to believe that He is working all things for our good, even the painful moments, even the times when we can't see the purpose. God's perspective on your hurt is a perspective of hope. Even in the darkest moments, He offers the promise of healing, restoration, and transformation. He sees your pain, but He also sees the path ahead, one that leads to freedom, to wholeness, and to a deeper connection with Him. Your hurt may feel like a dead end, but God sees the resurrection power on the other side. What feels like the end is often the beginning of something new, something beautiful that God is bringing forth from the ashes of your pain. Ultimately, God's perspective on your hurt is rooted in love. He loves you deeply, and His heart breaks with yours. He doesn't just stand at a distance, observing your suffering. He enters into it with you. His love is the ultimate antidote to the hurt, the balm that soothes the wounds and the strength that sustains you when you feel like giving up. In God's eyes, your hurt is not the end of the story. It is part of the greater narrative of redemption and restoration that He is writing in your life. And no hurt is too big for His love to heal.